I had imagined first contact 1,000 different ways, and not one of them involved me waking up face down in alien moss with a pounding headache and the distinct feeling that I had embarrassed my entire species before even saying hello. The tribe was supposed to be a myth. Every exploration forum talked about them in half-jokes and paranoid warnings. A reclusive species deep in uncharted space, technologically advanced, culturally rigid, and violently opposed to outsiders. Ships vanished near their system. Probes never returned. Diplomats were advised to turn around before even trying. Naturally, that made them irresistible. I told myself I wasn't chasing glory. I was chasing answers. If humanity wanted to survive among the stars, someone had to figure out why an entire civilization refused contact. I just didn't expect that someone to be me, unconscious, drooling slightly, after misjudging atmospheric density and clipping a mountain on descent. The last thing I remembered before blacking out was my ship screaming alarms and me shouting something profoundly unheroic. When I came to, the air was warm and scented like rain and spice. My first thought was relief. I was alive. My second thought was confusion, because the sky above me wasn't a sky at all. It arched like polished glass, glowing faintly, and silhouettes moved beyond it. Then a shadow leaned over me. She was tall. Not monstrous, not frightening, just striking. Smooth skin that caught the light like pearl. Eyes too bright, too focused, studying me with an intensity that made me acutely aware of every bruise and torn seam in my flight suit. Another shape appeared beside her. Then another. Soon I was surrounded. Every story I'd ever read about hostile first contact slammed into my brain at once. I tried to sit up. My arms didn't cooperate. Someone made a soft sound, surprise? Concern, and suddenly I was being gently pressed back down. A device clicked near my ear, and a calm, synthetic voice spoke inside my skull. Language matrix engaged. Translation initializing. Thank every star I knew. I swallowed and forced myself to smile, because smiling was what humans did when terrified and trying not to die. Hello? I said. I come in peace. The device hummed. There was a brief crackle. The alien women, because at this point I was fairly sure they were women, leaned in. The voice spoke again, louder, clearer, and very, very wrong. Prime genetic donation identified. Silence fell like a dropped plate. I blinked. No. That's not. A ripple went through them. Gasps. Sharp intakes of breath. One of them placed a hand over her chest. Another actually stepped back, eyes wide, as if I'd just announced I was royalty or radioactive. Wait, I said quickly. Translator error. I'm just a human. Average. Extremely average. I fainted during landing. That's not exactly prime anything. The device crackled again. Prime genetic donation confirmed. Condition fragile. Revered. That did it. They moved all at once. I was lifted, carefully, reverently, off the ground. Hands supported my shoulders, my legs, my head. I was cradled like something precious, like a priceless artifact that might shatter if handled roughly. I tried to protest, but every word I spoke made the device chirp enthusiastically and repeat some variation of prime rare and sacred. I caught glimpses of their surroundings as they carried me. Tall structures grown rather than built. Light that seemed alive, shifting with mood. Other members of the tribe stared openly, whispering in tones that made my translator buzz unhelpfully. One woman reached out and brushed her fingers against my hair. She smiled, slow and curious, as if touching a holy relic that had unexpectedly turned out to be warm. I'm really not, I muttered. I failed orbital physics twice. The translator responded with, humility protocol engaged. They laid me down on a platform that felt like silk and water had collaborated. Warm coverings were draped over me. Someone pressed a cup to my lips, and instinct took over. The liquid tasted sweet, energizing, and far too good for a prisoner's last meal. I finally managed to push myself upright, ignoring the chorus of concerned sounds. Listen, I said, trying to project calm authority while wrapped in alien blankets. I appreciate the hospitality, but there's been a misunderstanding. I'm not here to donate anything, genetic or otherwise. I'm an explorer. An idiot explorer, clearly, but still. The device word. Sacred offering expresses nervous humor. Reassure. A hand squeezed mine. Comforting. Encouraging. Entirely inappropriate for someone who was supposed to be rejecting outsiders. That was when the realization hit me, slow and horrifying. They weren't guarding me. They weren't interrogating me. They were welcoming me. Not as a guest. Not as an equal. As something valuable. As something desired. As something they absolutely, positively believed had arrived for their benefit. I looked around at the attentive faces, the reverent posture, the way they watched my every movement like it mattered, and felt my stomach drop. "Oh no," I whispered. The translator, cheerful as ever, replied, "Affirmative. Prime Genetic Donation has accepted destiny." And somewhere deep inside the legendary alien tribe that rejected outsiders, a celebration began, apparently in my honor. If destiny involved this many pillows, I wanted a refund. They refused to let me walk. Every time I tried to stand, at least two of them appeared at my sides, hands hovering inches from my arms like I might disintegrate if left unsupported. One actually made a sharp, scolding sound when I put my own weight on my feet, and the translator immediately chimed in with, "Warning, sacred structure under stress." "I jog," I said. "For fun. Voluntarily." This was translated as, "Prime specimen displays ritual exaggeration." They escorted, no, paraded, me through what I could only describe as a palace grown from light and stone. The walls curved organically, etched with symbols that pulsed faintly as we passed, as if the building itself was watching me. Everywhere we went, members of the tribe stopped what they were doing to stare. Some bowed. Others pressed their palms together and murmured. One younger woman nearly dropped the armful of glowing fruit she was carrying when she saw me, eyes going wide like she just spotted a celebrity. I waved awkwardly. That caused three of them to gasp. I was seated at a low table that rose smoothly from the floor the moment I approached. Cushions adjusted around me, conforming to my body in a way that was deeply comfortable and deeply unsettling. A dozen plates appeared, each carrying food that looked suspiciously engineered to appeal to every possible sense. "This is too much," I said. "I don't need all." "Nutrition ceremony begins," the translator announced. The women gathered closer. One knelt beside me, lifted a piece of fruit, and held it inches from my mouth. Her expression was soft, almost reverent, eyes flicking between my face and my lips. I froze. "I can feed myself," I said gently. Translated as, "Sacred humility observed. Assistance encouraged." She smiled and moved the fruit closer. I ate it. Because I am not strong. The taste exploded, sweet, tart, warm, sending a pleasant buzz through my limbs. A murmur rippled through the group, pleased and approving. Another plate was offered. Then another. Each bite was accompanied by attentive gazes and murmured commentary the translator struggled to keep up with. "Prime reacts positively. Genetic resonance confirmed. Look at his skin temperature rising." "I'm blushing," I said weakly. "That's just embarrassment." The translator paused, then offered. "Thermal excitement acknowledged." Somewhere to my left, two of them started arguing in sharp, melodic tones. Gestures grew animated. One pointed at me, then at herself. The other crossed her arms and shook her head. A third stepped in, calm but firm, and the argument subsided, though not before I caught what the translator generously summarized as, "Caretaker priority dispute." "Oh no," I muttered again. They assigned shifts. I learned this when one of them proudly placed a hand on her chest and said something that translated to, "Primary attendant." Another responded with, "Secondary emotional support." A third, smiling brightly, announced herself as, "Recreational morale facilitator." "I don't need morale," I said. "Morale requirement overridden," the translator replied. Hours, or what I assumed were hours, because time felt slippery here, passed in a haze of comfort and constant attention. They adjusted the lighting when I squinted. They changed the temperature when I sighed. When I yawned, 3 of them leaned in with concern, and one gently stroked my arm in a way that sent my brain into full system reboot. I tried again to explain. I really did. I'm not rare, I said, as clearly as I could. There are billions of humans. Billions. You could trip over one and find another. The translator crackled. Prime displays protective instinct toward genetic kin. That's population statistics. Abundance myth detected. They nodded sympathetically, like I was a child insisting monsters weren't real. One of them finally sat beside me, not kneeling, not hovering, just sitting. She was slightly shorter than the others, her movements slower, more deliberate. When she spoke, the others quieted, listening. Clarification requested, the translator said. Prime genetic donation questions valuation. Yes, I said eagerly. Please. Clarify away. She studied me for a long moment, eyes searching my face not like a scientist examining a specimen, but like someone trying to understand a puzzle. When she spoke again, her tone softened. Our people do not welcome outsiders, the translator rendered. Outsiders bring imbalance, conflict, loss. That sounds reasonable, I said carefully. But you, she continued, fell from the sky without weapons raised. You fainted instead of fighting. You apologized while bleeding. I opened my mouth, then closed it. That is not weakness to us, the translator said. That is compatibility. Around us, heads nodded. She reached out, hesitated, as if asking permission, and then rested her fingers lightly against my wrist. Warm. Steady. You are treated as sacred, the translator concluded, because you are gentle where others are not. My heart did something deeply inconvenient. I just didn't want to die, I admitted. Survival instinct is attractive, the translator said helpfully. I groaned and leaned back into the cushions, staring at the glowing ceiling. Somewhere between being hand-fed alien delicacies and accidentally becoming the emotional centerpiece of an entire tribe, I realized something important. They weren't flirting to be playful. They weren't pampering me out of politeness. They genuinely believed I mattered. And unless I figured out how to fix that translator soon, this welcome was only going to get more enthusiastic from here. By the time I realized the attention wasn't going to fade, I'd developed a nervous habit of apologizing to furniture. Everywhere I went, someone was there. Sometimes 2 someones. Sometimes more. They moved with an effortless grace, always anticipating my needs before I knew I had them. If I paused, someone offered a seat. If I frowned, lighting shifted. If I laughed, once accidentally, when I tripped over a root that politely moved out of my way, the sound echoed through the chamber like a small miracle. The translator did not help. Prime exhibits joy response, it announced brightly. One of them clapped. Another smiled so wide it made my chest ache. I tried to retreat to a quiet corner, but even that was interpreted as something meaningful. Privacy, apparently, was a rare and intimate request among their people. The space I was given was less, alone, and more respectfully observed from a distance. Except for her. She was the one from earlier, the calmer one. The one who had sat beside me instead of hovering. She arrived without fanfare, dismissing the others with a gesture that was gentle but firm. They obeyed immediately, though not without curious glances in my direction. When it was just us, the space felt different. Quieter. Less ceremonial. Is this okay? I asked, gesturing vaguely at everything. The translator hesitated longer than usual. Prime requests emotional grounding, it said finally. She tilted her head, studying me. You are overwhelmed, the translator rendered, her voice softer than the others. Yes, I said, relieved. Very. She sat across from me, folding her legs beneath her in a way that looked comfortable and natural. Not posed. Not ritualized. Just present. My role, the translator continued, is cultural liaison. I explain meaning when meaning fractures. That sounds like exactly what I need, I said. A faint smile curved her lips. Then we will attempt fewer fractures. She asked me questions, real ones. About my journey. About Earth. About why I would risk myself to meet a tribe known for rejection. When I answered, the translator stumbled occasionally, exaggerating my phrasing in ways that made her blink in surprise or amusement. When I said, I've always been curious, it translated as, I am compelled by longing. When I said, I like learning about people, it offered, I seek emotional convergence. Can you turn down the poetry setting? I asked. Adjustment unavailable, the translator replied. She laughed at that. Not politely. Not ceremonially. A genuine sound, warm and unguarded. Something in my chest loosened. As we talked, I learned more about them than any database had ever contained. Their fear of outsiders wasn't rooted in hostility. It was rooted in loss. Past encounters had left scars. Promises broken. Bonds formed too quickly and torn apart when visitors inevitably left. You arrived unconscious, the translator conveyed. You could not perform. You could not deceive. What we saw was unfiltered. I snore, I offered. Loudly. Her smile widened. That was noted. Time passed strangely. The glow beyond the walls shifted, deepening in hue. I became aware that I wasn't being watched anymore. Not really. The attention had pulled back, respectful, giving us space. You are not sacred to me, she said suddenly. I stiffened, unsure whether to feel relieved or disappointed. You are interesting, the translator continued. You are gentle. You are amusingly fragile. But you are not an object. Thank you, I said. I think. She leaned closer, curiosity evident but restrained. Does it trouble you, how they see you? Yes, I admitted. And no. I don't want to be worshipped. But it feels good to matter. Her gaze softened. That is the danger. There it was. The quiet truth beneath the laughter and cushions and hand-fed fruit. Leaving would hurt them. Staying would change everything. A distant sound rolled through the structure, a resonant tone that vibrated faintly in the air. Her posture shifted, suddenly alert. The convergence approaches, the translator said. That sounds ominous, I replied. Celebratory, it clarified. Decision-making ritual. My stomach dropped. Decision about what? She hesitated, eyes flicking to mine. About you. Of course it was. They will wish to formalize your status. The translator continued, far too cheerfully. Public affirmation of genetic and emotional significance. I don't suppose awkward tourist is an option, I said. Her lips twitched. Unlikely. Silence stretched between us, charged but comfortable. I realized dimly that this was the first moment since arriving that I wasn't panicking. I was nervous, yes. Confused. But calm. Because she was here. If I leave, I said quietly, will it hurt them? Yes, the translator answered. If I stay? She met my eyes. Then you will no longer be a symbol. You will be a choice. The sound came again, closer now. The tribe was gathering. I stood, smoothing my wrinkled flight suit, heart pounding. I didn't come here to be a legend, I said. I came to understand. Her hand brushed mine, light, deliberate. Not claiming. Not ceremonial. Just contact. Then you already belong more than you know, the translator said softly. As we walked toward the gathering light together, I had the strange, unsettling realization that whatever happened next wouldn't just decide how they welcomed me. It would decide whether I was ready to be welcomed at all. The gathering space felt larger than anything I'd seen since arriving, a vast open chamber grown upward instead of outward, its surfaces alive with slow pulses of light. The tribe assembled in concentric arcs, their attention focused not on the center of the room, but on me. That alone made my palms sweat. I stood there, suddenly very aware of my rumpled suit, my unremarkable height, the fact that I was still painfully, embarrassingly human. The calm woman stood beside me, not touching this time, but close enough that I could feel her presence like a steadying warmth. The resonant tone sounded again, and the translator vibrated sharply in my ear. "Convergence ritual initiating," it announced. An older woman stepped forward. Her posture was commanding without being severe, her gaze sharp but curious. She spoke, and the translator began its work. "We welcome the one marked by fate," it intoned. I winced. She continued, voice steady. "We acknowledge the arrival of what we believe to be rare. Sacred. A gift not requested." There was a pause. A subtle shift in the light. "And now," the translator said, hesitating, "we verify truth." The calm woman beside me lifted her hand. "Correction requested," the translator rendered. All eyes turned to her. She spoke again, more firmly this time, and the translator sputtered, then went silent. For one terrifying heartbeat, there was nothing. Then the voice returned. Different. Clearer. Less enthusiastic. "Translation matrix recalibrated," it said. "Previous output contained semantic distortion." I felt my knees weaken with relief. The elder's eyes narrowed slightly. "Distortion?" "Yes," the translator replied. "Subject was misidentified." The murmur that followed was unmistakable. Confusion. Surprise. Embarrassment. I cleared my throat. "Hi," I said. "I'm really sorry about the misunderstanding. I'm not a prime genetic donation. I'm just a guy who made a bad landing and passed out." This time, the translator relayed it faithfully. Silence fell again, but it was a different kind. Not reverent. Not excited. Curious. The elder studied me for a long moment. "You are not unique?" "I mean," I said, rubbing the back of my neck. "Statistically speaking, I'm aggressively average." A few of them made sounds that the translator helpfully identified as amusement. "And yet," the elder said slowly, "nothing you did was false." That caught me off guard. "You fell without violence," she continued. "You spoke gently when afraid. You showed concern even when you believed yourself in danger." I glanced at the calm woman beside me. She watched me, expression unreadable but intent. "The error was not in how we treated you," the elder said. "It was in why." The tension in my chest loosened. "We assumed destiny," she went on. "Instead, we encountered choice." She turned to me fully. "You may leave. No dishonor follows you. The welcome will be remembered as a mistake, and a lesson." A door, literal or metaphorical, opened in front of me. I could feel it. Home. Safety. Distance. I thought of Earth's crowded cities. Of anonymous faces. Of the quiet ache of wanting to matter and never quite believing that I did. Then I thought of laughter that wasn't ritualized. Of questions asked with real curiosity. Of a hand brushing mine without obligation. "I didn't come here to be worshipped," I said. "But I also didn't come here just to leave unchanged." The elder inclined her head. "Speak then." I turned, not to the tribe, but to the woman beside me. "If I stay," I said carefully, "it won't be as something sacred. It'll be as myself. Flawed. Confused. Probably annoying." Her lips curved into a smile that made my heart stutter. "That is acceptable." A ripple of quiet laughter passed through the gathering. "I can't promise permanence," I added. "But I can promise honesty." The elder regarded us both, then nodded. "Then the welcome stands." Revised. The translator chimed. "Status updated, guests by choice." Applause, soft, rhythmic, distinctly alien, filled the chamber. As the gathering dispersed, the pressure eased. The lights softened. The world felt possible. Later, how much later, I couldn't say, We found ourselves back in the quieter space where we'd talked before. No crowd. No ceremony. Just the glow and the hum of a place that felt less intimidating now. You could still leave, she said. I know. You could change your mind. Probably will, I admitted. Several times. She considered that, then reached out, her fingers brushing mine again. This time, I didn't freeze. This, she said, the translator gentle and precise, is what we feared outsiders would never choose. What's that? I asked. Staying without being bound. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. Turns out humans are good at that. We mess up a lot. But sometimes, we choose anyway. Outside, the alien world pulsed with quiet life, no longer a myth, no longer a legend. Just a place. And for the first time since dreaming of the stars, I realized I hadn't just found an alien tribe. I'd found a welcome that didn't require me to be anything other than human.